Good morning, Julie. Wanted to take a moment here and review the lesson we had the other day. This first picture here that we're taking a look at here was initially the first basic swing you did with me there watching you. We look at this here, we take the club back, take it back a little bit further, get a good shoulder turn, get the hips turned into it, and we kind of take a little step that leg down, start to transfer our weight, get a little bit of the hands and arms flipping through, which we can kind of see that right arm trying to kind of help it up because we see the club kind of forward bowing or bowing forward like we see here coming through the shot. Then what happens here, the two elbows get separated through here, becomes a little bit of a bow, or what they like to call the chicken wing. As you turn down, you turn through. If you remember correctly, that one wasn't the greatest shot in the world. When we start off, the first thing I told you was, let's look at that ball position. Let's take the ball position from here, and let's move the ball position to, this is going to be upside down here. For some reason my camera is acting up, but you can kind of see the first initial position being right there in the middle, but I think as I went along here, I got it straightened out and we got a little bit better swing. So what initially I did here, and I did it kind of as a reminder for you here as you first take the swing. Take the swing there. There we go. I set a little club down here at the middle of your stance. Now, the reason I set the middle of the stance here is because we've got to have that center point, or we have to have that center position, that as we swing back and we swing through, that club is coming down and hitting the same spot over and over and over. Because what can happen here, if that ball position moves too far forward, the club can come close, the body can lean to the left, and a couple other different variables that can happen. But ideally what we looked at here was trying to get you a little more centered, like we see here with this position here, trying to get as you turn back, trying to get a good position, and then now allowing the club to have no reason not to make a good contact as you come through. The second thing that we talked about when we talked about your golf swing was the length of your backswing. We talked about as you get up to the top of your golf swing, you like to take this, you get a good full shoulder turn here. But what happens here is this club, this left arm gets overextended. As it gets overextended, it creates, here's one lever, here's two levers, and then a third as you get into the top. So a little overextended in the body or in the swing as you turn back to the top of the golf swing. Now, what we try to work on here, in this position here, was initially just trying to swing back. And I told you I wanted you to try to keep that left arm as straight as possible and turn back to that 10 o'clock position. So when we say 10 o'clock, let's start right here. And let's get you a position. Let's get a little clock on there for you to show you. So as you take the club back, it was here, right there about 10 o'clock. What you can see here is we've made a full shoulder turn like we did before, but we didn't allow the club to come rested on the top of our golf swing like we did on the left-hand side here. Now, as you come here, great position through here. That's a textbook swing, and this being your first lesson you've ever had. I think this is a great turn back and a great turn through. We come down, release the club just a little early again, like we said in the first review there. Because when you release the club right there and you see a full extension all the way through, that means all your power that you started with up here, right here to here, has been released. Now, when we say that, and when I talk about that, this is what I'm talking a little bit more of. Let's get someone here that you can see. All right, give me 2 seconds. All right, here's Nick Wyatt, a gentleman that's out on tour right now. See Nick turn back. He swings back to about 11 o'clock. If he comes down into it, this is a position when we look at the differences here. Here's his left arm. Here's his club that he had at the top of his golf swing. See, here to here, See those two positions? He still held that position as he turned down, brought that right elbow into his side, and then released the club as he made contact with the ball. What happens here is right between here, and you can start to see the club start to release, and you lose all that power as you're coming down into it. So what happens here, we come in and we try to hit the ball rather than just swinging the club. And that's kind of a thought you'll hear me say over and over again, and I just want you to swing the golf club. So from here to here, the first position, ideally, getting that ball position was one. Two, and I'm getting ahead of myself by going to that position, but I'm going to take you back into this. And two was that of your stance. I want you to get in a little bit more of an athletic position. Now, when I say that here, what we're talking about, and I'm going to come back to this position on the right-hand side here in a second, but this is what I want to show you. Okay, that's initially, upside down to the picture that we see on the left-hand side. But in the beginning, what we talked about here was your initial stance. Let's see if I get something. There we go. All right, what you can see here are differences between these two. One, the distance of your hands away from your, not necessarily your thighs, but your hips. There's a big clearance here. And a lot of times with women, what you tend to find that from is because of the upper region of our body. We tend to find that we stretch the arms out and away and over the top of them so that you don't have to swing. That way you can swing around them, and you don't necessarily get a good swing on it from time to time. But second, you don't necessarily, as you swing and try to swing around them, it kind of creates a little bit of an arc back and forth. Whereas we don't want to have them be in the way. And in a sense, they won't be in a way, and that's kind of what we talked about here in the lesson. Now, second, what we talked about here was getting a little bit more athletic stance. When we look at the legs here, you can kind of see the legs here, here, and here, rather than getting a little more weight up over the balls of your feet. We see here, we see here. So your back, and you had a good straight back. Your spine angle was good there, but initially I'd like to see a little more weight up onto the balls of the feet rather than back and a little more upright with the legs like we see here, almost like you're standing up with the legs. So more or less kind of feeling like, not to say it's crouch, but I kind of called it my bouncing position when we talked about getting the weight out over the balls of the feet time after time. And when we see the weight out over the balls of the feet, what we're allowed to see, or what we see overall, is that good transition turning back and that good transition turning through. Now, two, that then leads into the ball position, which we see there, and in three, as you take the golf club back, what we see here is you can see that position. You almost see a little bit better here as you take it back. So as you take the golf club back, we can see the club a little closed here. As you take it back, you get up to the top, right there. That's what I would tell you, that's that position where we let the right elbow bend here. We let the left elbow bend in order to try to take the club back as far as we did. Not necessarily do you have to do that. All I want to see is you just initially, make a good turn back. We want to see you try to get that toe up to the sky as we turn up to that 11 o'clock position. When we look at this here, and what I'll pose a question to you here in this regards is look at these two. Is your right elbow in the form of a supporting position? The answer is yes, in the left-hand picture. In the right-hand picture, no, because the elbow has bent, and as it bent, it becomes more of a dominating position. So if I asked you if you were a waiter and you were trying to hold a plate of dishes up, would you necessarily let that plate of dishes fall? In this case, the answer would be yes. Here, that right elbow is down. There's your plate of dishes, holding that plate of dishes. Big difference between the picture on the right-hand side and the picture on the left-hand side. We can swing from this position on the left down and through time and time. Now, will it be as easy at first? No, not necessarily, but it's something that you can repeat over and over and over. Now, as you swing down, what we see, club comes back down, and you kind of fell. That position, I remember you said, I don't feel, that didn't feel right. So let's see if we do it again. Yes, the foul's ready. We turned up to that position right there. There we go. Hands come down. Much better position as we turn down and through. Now, as we see this, the next time that I would work with you, or that I'd like to see it, what we would work on would be you're swinging the club down through here, not allowing that right hand to want to try to help it as much. And that's where you see sometimes you see some of that inconsistency, consistent shots, is where you're trying to help the ball up rather than just swinging the golf club. And, in all essence, what we try to see or what we try to find is that as you make the turn back and turn through, we try to have it as consistent as possible. When you don't try to help the club, it makes all the difference in the world. Now, look at the differences here, and I'm going to end you on this note here. When you take the club back as far as you are here, and I'm going to show you, here's what they call one plane for you, which is not a bad position. Most good golfers pray to have this position. But two, as you get up to the top, watch what happens. Let that club fall here, so that as you go to bring it down, you swing a little bit over the top into a second position down, and then now the club and the hands have to come down and around, and there's this little right hip kick, or this little position of trying to swing, and you can kind of see all the weight come up off that right side going to your left, but you can kind of see everything swings and swings to the left, and that's where you hit it. Now this same position here, watch where you're at here. We didn't change that position. That position went up natural, and that's why I said you had a lot of good fundamentals in your golf swing when I was talking to you in the lesson. As you come up, now watch this. Look how much closer that is to that position, just because you started from without letting the club come down. Now let's judge these two positions here. See how much more the club is a little more upright? And when I say a little more upright, let's look at this angle here. 55 degrees. 34 degrees. The 34 degrees creates what they call a little more lag, or that you're swinging a little more from the inside. And when I say the inside, what I mean is that the club comes down on an approach this way into the ball. What happens here when the club comes down on a more upright position, the club comes down on the ball and it has a tendency to go left. From this position here on the left-hand side allows you to be able to swing out at the ball. Look at the difference of where your club finished on both these positions and where the ball went. There's the ball going left, the club finishes left. Club finishes out in front of you, ball goes out in front of you. All right? So if you have any questions, by all means, I told you what I wanted you to think about here, Julie, is just being able to just swing the club. I want you to do each position with the ball teed up. That way, as you swing through, you're not worried about getting the ball up time after time. All you're worried about is just swinging back and forth. Now, second, as you do this, we talked about ball position, we talked about your stance, and we talked about the length of your backswing. Now, all these three key positions, I think, will definitely get you started and get you going on the right path. If you'd like to work further, feel free to give me a call, 314-724-6539, or shoot me an email if you have any questions at michaelwyattgolf@gmail.com. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.